Remember all that debate a while back? About Uber, I mean. Like
Yeah.
back in 2014, everyone arguing about whether it was worth all the hype.
Yeah.
You had like finance people saying it was totally overvalued while all the Silicon Valley folks were throwing money at it like it was going out of style. Well, we've got this excerpt from Platform Revolution that you sent us to kind of unpack all that. And it turns out the secret ingredient wasn't just ride sharing. It was this whole thing called network effects.
Yeah. What's really interesting is that this whole debate really kind of showed a shift in how we think about like value, I mean, like traditional finance, it always focuses on tangible assets and revenue.
Sure.
But with these platforms like Uber, the value, it comes from something much harder to measure, like the network itself.
So let's dive into this Uber case specifically then. So we've got Professor Aswath Damodaran, big name in finance, right?
Oh, yeah.
Valued Uber at $5.9 billion using like traditional methods, not chump change.
Right, right. But then you've got Bill Gurley. This investor, he was arguing it was worth way more.
Oh, okay.
And his kind of secret weapon, understanding these network effects, he actually used this napkin sketch by another investor, David Sachs, to illustrate how Uber was growing so fast.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing that. It basically showed how more drivers leads to faster pickups.
Exactly.
Which then means happier riders, lower prices, so you attract even more riders, which then in turn brings in even more drivers, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
Like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
But with cars and fares.
Exactly. It's like each new user adds value to the platform, right? So it makes it more attractive to even more users.
Yeah.
You create this crazy virtuous cycle that the traditional methods just couldn't capture.
Right.
And Gurley's data, it actually showed that Uber was already exceeding expectations because of these effects.
Wow.
Think about it. The taxi market in San Francisco, it was only like $120 million when Uber got started.
Right.
But by 2014, it had tripled, mostly because of Uber.
So it's not even just about supply and demand then, in the like traditional sense.
Right.
It's like demand creates more demand.
Exactly.
Okay.
So like in the 20th century, right?
Yeah.
All these industrial giants, they thrived on this idea of supply economies of scale.
Right. The more they make, the cheaper it gets.
Exactly. The more they produced, the cheaper each unit became.
Right.
But platforms, they're different. Like Uber, they benefit from what we call demand economies of scale.
Okay, so the more people use it.
Yeah, so the more people use it, the more valuable it becomes for everyone.
Okay, so what you're saying is more is actually more in this case.
Yes.
Not just a bigger pie, but a pie that magically grows as more people take a slice.
Precisely.
Okay.
And that kind of exponential growth, that's what makes these platforms so powerful.
Okay.
There's this concept called Metcalfe's law that captures this idea perfectly. It basically states the value of a network isn't linear, it's exponential.
Okay.
Think about like your own social network, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about how many friends you have.
Right.
It's about how many connections they have.
Right.
And how those connections connect to others.
Right.
And that's what makes it so incredibly valuable.
Okay, so network effects are like a secret weapon for growth. But what makes them different from, say, just offering like discounts to get people to try the app?
Ah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So discounts, right?
Yeah.
They might get you some initial users, sure.
Right.
But they don't build lasting value.
Okay.
Not the way network effects do.
Gotcha.
Network effects, they're about the platform itself, becoming more valuable as more people use it.
Okay. So it's not just about getting people in the door.
Right.
It's about making them want to stay and like invite their friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between a flash mob and like a thriving community.
Yeah.
One's a temporary spectacle. The other has a life of its own.
That makes sense. But you keep saying two-sided network effects. What does that actually mean? I mean, isn't every platform just a bunch of users?
That's a good question. Not quite. So two-sided network effects, they mean. You have two distinct groups who benefit from each other's presence.
Gotcha.
Think of it like a dance floor.
Okay.
Way more fun when you have both leaders and followers.
Okay. So Uber has riders and drivers. eBay has buyers and sellers. Airbnb has hosts and guests.
Exact.
Each side needs the other to make the whole thing work.
Precisely. And the beauty is, each side attracts the other.
Right.
It's like this positive feedback loop.
Okay.
So more riders on Uber means more work for drivers,
Right.
which attracts more drivers, of course.
Right.
And then you get faster pickups and happier riders, which brings in even more riders. You see how it works.
Yeah, okay. So that's why companies spend so much money.
Yeah.
Attracting just one side of the market. Like, think about those free ride credits Uber used to give out.
Yeah.
Or, bars having ladies' night.
Exactly.
It's all about just sparking that initial attraction.
It's strategic, yeah.
Yeah.
Get one side on board, and the other side follows.
Right.
And then you've created this self-sustaining ecosystem.
Gotcha.
It's like building a fire.
Okay.
You need kindling to get those big logs burning.
So we've got price effects then, which are temporary, like those discounts we were talking about.
Right.
And then brand effects, which can, fade over time. Like, remember all those old .com companies?
Yeah.
That went bust.
Yeah.
Despite having big names.
Totally.
And then we have network effects,
Mm-hmm.
which are the real deal, I guess, when it comes to creating lasting value.
Yes.
But how do you actually make these things work? Can you give me, like, a real-world example?
Sure. Think about how Google took down Yahoo way back when.
Oh.
Yahoo, they started with a, human-edited directory of websites.
Right.
It was basically like a giant curated phone book for the internet.
Yeah, wasn't that, like, super slow and clunky, good luck finding anything?
Exactly. And human-curated systems, they don't really scale that well.
Right.
As the internet just, exploded, with all these new websites, Yahoo's model just couldn't keep up.
Right.
But Google, they had a different approach.
Okay.
An algorithm that leveraged the power of the network itself.
So instead of humans deciding what was important, Google let, the internet decide.
Kind of, yeah. So Google's algorithm, it looked at how websites link to each other,
Okay.
creating this kind of self-reinforcing cycle.
Gotcha.
So the more links a website had, especially from other important websites, the higher it ranked in the search results.
Makes sense.
And website owners, they obviously wanted to rank higher,
Yeah.
so they created better content, they earned more links, which then made Google's results even more valuable for users.
Right.
It was a win-win.
So Google's success wasn't just about a better algorithm then. It was about harnessing the power of the network itself.
Exactly.
Kind of like how Uber's success wasn't just about having an app.
Yeah.
It was about building that network of riders and drivers.
You got it.
Okay.
And a key takeaway here is, to build a successful platform, you have to make it easy for users to join and to contribute.
Oh.
Think of it like a party.
Okay.
You want to make it easy for people to just walk in and start mingling.
Right.
The less friction, the better.
Okay, so frictionless entry is what we're going for.
Yeah.
Any other examples of how that works?
Sure. Take Threadless, the t-shirt company.
Okay.
They don't hire designers. They actually crowdsource designs through weekly contests.
Oh, wow.
So anyone can submit a design.
Okay.
The community votes.
Right.
And the winning designs, they get printed and sold.
I get it. So Threadless is leveraging the network to find the talent, get feedback, even predict demand. It's like a self-organizing t-shirt factory.
Exactly.
Oh,
and because it's so easy for designers to participate, the platform grows like crazy.
Right.
Always offering fresh designs, keeping customers engaged.
Okay, so far we've seen how these network effects can create these awesome growth cycles.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier that they can also backfire.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
Well, imagine you throw this party, right? And it gets way too popular.
Okay.
Suddenly it's overcrowded. The music's too loud. You can't even move. No one's having fun anymore.
Right.
That's kind of what can happen with network effects when they just go unchecked.
Okay. So too much of a good thing can actually be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Can you give me a concrete example of that?
Sure. Let's talk about Occupid.
Okay.
So as they grew, they attracted more and more users, right?
Yeah.
This problem emerged.
Yeah.
The men on the platform were sending tons of messages, mostly to the most attractive women.
Yeah. I can see how that would get overwhelming pretty fast.
Yeah.
It's you're being bombarded
Yeah.
with all this attention you didn't ask for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the women, they felt besieged.
Right.
And then the, less attractive men, they felt ignored.
Right, because no one was responding.
Yeah, their messages were going unanswered.
Yeah.
And ironically, the very thing that made the platform attractive,
Right.
this huge pool of potential matches,
Right.
it was starting to drive people away.
Wow. So how did they solve this? Did they just tell everyone to chill out?
Not quite. They realized they needed to add some curation.
Okay.
Think of it like a museum curator.
Okay.
Carefully selecting which pieces to display.
Right.
To create the best experience for visitors.
So instead of just letting everyone in, they started using algorithms to like filter and match users.
Exactly.
Based on like more than just their stated preferences.
Exactly. They factored in things like how users actually interacted with each other, even like how they rated each other's attractiveness. Okay. But it wasn't about being superficial or anything. It was about creating like a better experience for everyone by making sure that people were connecting with others who were actually, kind of in their league, so to speak.
So they use data to make the network itself more valuable, not just bigger.
Exactly.
It's like they turned the like wisdom of the crowd into an algorithm for like better connections.
Precisely.
Okay.
And that's a crucial lesson for any platform, really.
Okay.
Growth for the sake of growth, it's not enough.
Right.
You need to like actively manage the network.
Right.
Make sure that everyone's having a good time, so to speak.
Okay, I'm definitely seeing like the dark side of these unchecked network effects.
Yeah.
Any other like cautionary tales?
Well, remember Chatterlet?
Oh, yeah.
That site that randomly connected people for like video chats?
Yeah.
It exploded in popularity because it was so easy to use, right? But they had like zero curation.
Yeah.
No filters.
Oh, okay.
No way to like control who was connecting with whom.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Didn't it become kind of notorious for, let's just say, unexpected encounters?
Let's just say it quickly became like the Wild West of webcam chats.
Right.
Overrun with the undesirable content, to put it mildly.
Right.
And as you can imagine, that led to a mass exodus of users.
Yeah.
The platform basically imploded.
Wow.
It's a stark reminder, I think, of what can happen when you don't understand the different types of network effects that you're dealing with.
Okay, so we've talked about these two-sided markets, like Uber and OkCupid.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that there are actually 4 different kinds of network effects to manage.
Right.
Okay, I'm ready for the advanced course laid on me.
All right, buckle up.
Okay.
So we've got cross-site effects.
Okay.
Which is how users on one side affect those on the other.
Right.
Like how more riders on Uber benefit drivers.
Right.
But then there are also same side effects.
Okay.
Which is how users on the same side impact each other.
Okay, so cross-side is like the dance floor analogy.
Yeah.
But what about same side? Help me visualize this.
All right, so imagine a party again.
Okay.
Positive same side effects are like when everyone's having fun, right? Mingling, enjoying each other's company.
Right.
The more people there are, the more connections you can make.
Right.
And, the better the party gets.
Gotcha. So that's like Xbox Live, where like more players means more people to play with.
Exactly.
It makes the whole experience more fun for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. But then you have negative same side effects.
Okay.
And that's like when the party gets too crowded.
Right.
You can't move. The music's blasting. It just becomes like overwhelming.
Right.
So too many people competing for the same, resources, attention, whatever.
Yeah.
It can actually make the experience worse.
Okay, so back to Uber then.
Yeah.
If you have too many drivers in one area, they're all competing for the same rides.
Right.
Which means like longer wait times for passengers.
Yes.
Less money for drivers.
Exactly.
Like a lose-lose.
It's like a traffic jam of Ubers.
Yeah.
And you see this on other platforms too.
Okay.
Think about a platform like Etsy, right? Where sellers with similar products end up kind of competing with each other, making it harder for anyone to stand out.
Yeah.
It's like having too many stalls selling the same handmade crafts at a flea market.
Right. So it's all about balance. Right?
Exactly.
You want enough users on each side to create that like thriving network, but not so many that it becomes overcrowded and starts working against itself.
Precisely.
Okay.
And that's where like skillful platform management comes in.
Right.
You need to understand how to leverage the positive network effects while mitigating the negative ones. Yeah. It's like being a conductor, orchestrating all these different instruments to create a harmonious symphony.
This is starting to sound like a high wire act.
It is.
But isn't that where the real magic happens, though? Figuring out how to make all those interconnected parts work together seamlessly.
You got it.
Okay.
And this brings us to, like, one of the most profound implications of this whole, like, network effects era. Okay. The way companies create and capture value, it's fundamentally changing.
Okay, now you've really got my attention.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So in the old days, companies They were like fortresses.
Right.
They built walls around their assets, their knowledge, their processes.
Right.
Their value came from what they owned and controlled internally.
Right.
But in this network era, the value, it comes from the outside, from the community of users interacting on the platform.
So it's less about what the company owns.
Yeah.
And more about what it connects.
Exactly. Think about Airbnb.
Okay.
They don't own any hotels.
Right.
Yet, they're one of the largest lodging companies in the world.
Yeah, crazy.
Their value comes from connecting travelers with hosts.
Right.
Same with Uber.
Yeah.
They don't own a fleet of vehicles.
Right.
They connect riders with drivers.
Yeah.
It's a totally different model.
So instead of managing employees,
Yeah.
these companies are managing like crowds.
Yeah.
That's a pretty radical shift.
It is.
Yeah.
And it requires like a whole new way of thinking.
Right.
It's less about control and more about orchestration.
Okay.
It's about creating an environment where users can connect, they can collaborate, and create value for each other.
Right.
The company becomes like a facilitator, a platform architect.
It's like they're creating a garden instead of a factory.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. They're providing like the soil and the tools.
Yeah.
But the real growth comes from the plants themselves, you know, the community of users.
That's a great analogy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
this is why we see companies like Facebook, Google, Amazon becoming so dominant. They're not just building products and services anymore.
What?
They're building ecosystems.
Okay, this is blowing my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
So if companies are becoming less about what they own,
Yeah.
O-N, right?
Yeah.
And more about what they connect,
Uh-huh.
what does that mean for like the average person? Are we just like pawns in this grand game of network orchestration?
I wouldn't say that. Not necessarily. Actually, I think understanding how these network effects work can give you like more power
Okay.
as a consumer, even as a creator.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more. How can understanding this stuff make me more powerful?
Well, think about it this way.
Yeah.
When you choose to join a platform like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever,
Right.
you're not just passively consuming content.
Okay.
You're actually contributing to its network effects.
Oh, okay.
Your posts, your likes, your comments, they all add value to the platform.
So it's like we're not just users. We're actually part of what makes these platforms so valuable in the first place.
Exactly. And the more you understand how these platforms work, the more savvy you can be about which ones you choose to join and how you engage with them.
Okay.
You can use your understanding of these network effects to make like more informed choices about where you spend your time, your attention online.
So knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Even in the world of likes and shares. I like it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the shift to these like network-driven businesses, it also has huge implications for the future of work.
Okay. In what way?
Well, if companies are relying more on crowds than employees, what happens to traditional jobs?
Right.
Benefits, worker rights.
Right.
These are all big questions we need to grapple with as we move further into this network-driven economy.
Yeah. It's like the old rules of the game are being completely rewritten.
Yeah.
Right in front of us.
Yeah.
We're going from a world of like stable jobs and predictable careers to this world of like gigs and freelance work and like constantly evolving skill sets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this means that education and training needs to adapt too.
Right.
We need to prepare people for a future where like lifelong learning and adaptability are essential.
Right.
It's not enough to just learn one skill or trade anymore.
Right.
You need to be constantly learning and evolving to keep up with the changing demands of the market.
It's like survival of the fittest.
Yep.
But instead of like physical strength, it's all about like mental agility and the ability to learn new things quickly.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And this also raises all these questions about ownership.
Yeah.
If the value is increasingly being created by the community, who owns that value?
Right.
Is it the platform company, the users? Should it be shared more equitably?
Yeah, that's a huge question. And we're seeing this play out with like platforms like Uber and Airbnb, where drivers and hosts are demanding a bigger share of the profits that they help to generate.
Exactly. And it's not just about financial ownership either. There's the whole issue of like data ownership too.
Oh, right.
These platforms, they're collecting mountains of data about our behaviors, our preferences, our lives, really.
Right.
Who owns that data? How should it be used?
These are some like seriously big ethical questions with no easy answers.
Yeah.
It's like we're venturing into completely uncharted territory.
Yeah.
We need to figure out how to navigate this new landscape responsibly.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
We can't just let these platforms call all the shots.
Right.
We need to be like active participants in shaping the future of this whole like network-driven society.
So it's not all doom and gloom then.
No.
There's potential for like good here too.
Of course. Of course.
I mean, these networks can connect people.
Across borders, right.
Give us access to information, resources we never had before.
Right.
Create opportunities for like collaboration, innovation on a global scale.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the network effects can be a powerful force for good.
Right.
Think about how social media has been used to organize protests and movements, right?
For social change.
Right.
Or how online communities have connected people with shared interests, passions from all over the world.
Right.
The possibilities really are endless.
Yeah.
But we need to be mindful of the risks too, of course.
Right, of course.
The potential for exploitation, the concentration of power in the hands of these like few giant platform companies.
Right.
The spread of misinformation, polarization.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
It is. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so crucial to understand how these network effects work.
Right.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And the more we understand the like dynamics at play, the better equipped we'll be to navigate this like complex and rapidly evolving landscape.
This has been one mind-blowing deep dive. We started with a debate about Uber's valuation and ended up exploring like some of the biggest questions facing our society today.
It is pretty wild how these things connect.
Yeah, and I think the key takeaway for you, dear listener, is this. Network effects are everywhere. They're powerful, and they're here to stay.
Right.
They have the potential to create immense value.
Yeah.
But they also come with these risks and challenges.
Right.
And the more you understand how these forces work, the better prepared you'll be to navigate this new world.
So what can our listeners do?
Well, start by paying attention to the platforms you use every day.
Right.
Think about the data you're sharing, the connections you're making,
Yeah.
and the impact these networks are having on your life.
Okay.
Ask questions, demand transparency, and hold these companies accountable.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And remember, like you were saying, you're not just a passive user.
Right.
You have the power to shape these networks.
Right.
With your choices, your actions, your voice.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of network effects, we'll leave you with this.
Yeah.
One final provocative thought.
Okay, hit me.
What role will you play in shaping the future of this increasingly interconnected world?
The future is being written right now, and we're all part of the story.